Hey everyone, and welcome to my arguably very messy garage table, but today I'm going to teach you how to remove a PEI sticker off of spring steel. Now there will be a few things that you're going to need. First off, you will need a heat gun. Now the heat gun is going to get much hotter than your 3D printer ever will. And it's going to heat up the glue that's binding the PEI to the spring steel and loosen it. And that way we can kind of just pull it off. Now, when you're doing this, I absolutely recommend having some of these fire resistant kitchen gloves, because everything is going to be stupidly hot and you really don't want to burn yourself. Trust me, I've done that before. And that's going to make things go a lot safer. And then, because this is some really hardcore glue from 3M that holds this stuff on, we have some general purpose adhesive cleaner from 3M. This is an aerosol, and you just spray it on and let it thicken up on that glue, and I'll show you when we get to that point. And then from there, we also have a scraper, because this scraper is going to help us scrape away the glue once we get the PEI off of the spring steel. So let's give it a shot. So this is just going to be a long continuous video that hopefully works and I get everything done properly on the first shot. But first off, let's get our safety equipment on, because again, we're dealing with extremely hot material and it's really just not worth getting hurt over, because this little heat gun is definitely hot enough to scald you within a few seconds of it being used. So I'm going to try and organize things in a way that will allow you all to see. So let's get this wire out of the way. And we're just on some cardboard. Yeah, I know it's dirty, but obviously it'll be cleaned. We're not going to apply the new PEI on here. We're just going to take it off here. That's all we're doing. So first things first, let's heat up the glue that is binding the PEI to the spring steel. Now in this case, the PEI is so hot, it's actually bubbled up a little bit right there. But the point is to start in one corner and really work your way outwards, because as you can see now, when you start with one corner, you at least get a little bit of that PEI off. And now you can focus the heat down into this cavity we've created and just kind of start pulling as you're applying heat. So the reality is you're going to really only do a little bit at a time. You can't really go all in one shot. So each time we get a little bit out, we're going to keep going more, and we're going to work our way and little by little we are going to get farther and farther through this process. So have some patience, and this is really where these gloves come in handy, because things are getting very hot. And again, safety is key. All right. See, we are making really good progress here. Aha! That's about half of it off. And as you can imagine, we're just continuing this process And we are almost there. One more application of heat. Remember, don't rush this. Ta-da! Now, we got the old PEI surface completely off. And yeah, it took a few minutes, but persistence and patience really does a whole lot of good for removing this sort of material. Now, we are left with a bunch of glue that is left on this build plate. And don't attempt to do anything immediately. You really need to let this cool down. Again, safety is really important here. So, there's various ways you can remove this glue. I have used acetone to remove glue like this before. It takes a really long time and elbow grease for acetone to do the trick. So instead, I was recommended by Gizmo Dorks, the company that makes or sells this PEI that I was using, to use this 3M general purpose adhesive cleaner. Now this stuff can come in a bottle where you just kind of pour it down, and they said they prefer this aerosol spray can to that instead. And basically, we're going to spray down the glue once everything's cooled down, and we're going to let the adhesive remover soak into the glue, and then from there we're going to scrape it off with our metal scraper. Now this is the same scraper that came with my Creality Ender 3. I don't use it for removing parts anymore, but it is good for removing glue. The build surface now has cooled off to a point where I feel comfortable doing the adhesive remover. Now, we're just going to go over the instructions really quick so that way you have an idea of what you're getting into when using this. Obviously, with any chemical, a well-ventilated area is really important. That's why I'm doing this in my garage. So, for the instructions, it says, directions for use. Turn spray tip, so opening points, to dots on can rim. Spray liberally on surfaces to be cleaned. On vertical surfaces, do not apply to the point that the product starts to run off. Allow a few minutes for the solvents to penetrate the adhesive or other contaminants. While the surface is still wet, wipe with a clean, dry cloth. On areas where the adhesive is thoroughly dry, keep the adhesive wet for several minutes by repeating application of cleaner. Wipe off with a clean, dry cloth. Repeat applications if necessary. Okay, so whether you're using a shop towel or some paper towel, make sure you have some on you and make sure they're clean. I'm going to be using some blue shop towel that I use for when I'm wrenching on my car. And this should be perfect for this sort of thing. So, let's take this adhesive remover. You'll see there is the black dot where it indicates with an arrow that the adhesive spray is going to come out on. Shake just a little bit to get that aerosol going. And we're going to apply a liberal amount to the surface. Okay, at this point we want to let that chemical soak in. Again, it's a very chemically sort of smell that comes off of this. A well-ventilated area, very important. So in this case, doing it outside or in a garage or someplace where you're not stuck in a confined space with these chemicals floating around in the air, really important, I think. So we're going to let it soak, and then we are going to remove it. So after about 5 minutes or so of waiting here, the adhesive remover has essentially turned the glue into a bit of a gel. Now, again, it did say that if a single application wasn't sufficient, to put multiple applications. So in this case, I am going to indeed put a second application on to further make this glue easier to remove. So shake up the can a little bit, and there we go. I'm going to cap this for safety, and then again, give yourself some space so that the fumes don't get to you. Okay, so in the interest of safety, because we're working with chemicals, I put on some gloves so that my hands don't come in direct contact with all of this. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and hopefully let y'all see what it is exactly I'm doing. Right about there. So, you can see this whole splotch right here. And that's because, as I was saying before, this adhesive remover basically turns the glue into like a gel. And with the scraper, you can scrape that gel off and it'll accumulate into one giant glob of glue. So you may have to do this a few times, but so far it is going good. This is why I like the scraper for this, because it really digs into the glue near the bottom underneath and then kind of lifts it off, and it makes the process just a wee bit more easy. Try and keep everything in frame here. So we're just adding to the glob every time we scrape. And certain areas already are completely clear of the glue, while other areas I'd say need at least one more application. So with the big glob right here, we're going to take it and shove it off to the side here. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up a little bit closer to y'all. This is what the glue looks like with the adhesive remover that's soaked into the glue. Hopefully my camera did an okay job at zooming in or focusing in on that. And this is the gobbledygook that we are trying to remove. Obviously we got that surface layer off, but we're going to need to keep using our chemical here to really get it all off. We want a nice clean surface before we apply a new PEI sheet. So we're going to go ahead and put some more spray down. Really coat it. And I think this coating should be, if not the last, the second to the last. This is a pretty big can, so we're not using a whole lot here. So again, we're going to let it sit, and then after it sits for about 5 minutes, we'll come back to it. So 5 minutes or so has passed, and it certainly seems that it turned the glue into that gel substance we're going for again. So we're going to scrape. Oh yeah. Yep. A lot of it is definitely that gel that we were trying to remove. And depending on how thick the glue was in certain areas is going to determine how many times you need to do this. It's by no means a difficult process, and it's just one of those things where you really want to get it just right. When it comes to anything that you apply with a sticker, preparation is everything. It's the same way when it comes to putting on a new gasket in a vehicle or anything else that you really want to get one good shot at. Okay, see, we have removed yet another giant chunk of glue. Now we're going to add that to our globedy-gloob. And at this point, we're getting very close to what I would consider the bottom layer. We're just going to keep scraping whatever we can off. We don't want to put too much muscle into it because we don't want to gouge our PE or our spring steel. We just want to get the glue off, and it doesn't require all that much muscle to do this. Just patience. That's all. That's what I do. This is going really good if I say so myself. I'm going to turn this around so I can get a better angle at the glue over here on this side. And we're almost done, guys. I think another round of the chemical should get the last of the residue. So we're going to shake this up, make sure we're spraying in the right direction, and general or liberal amounts. Capped it off for safety. Let it sit, and I think this will get the very last of it off. Alright, I think we are good. We got the last of it, so with this last bit, we're going to go from the inside out because we're trying to scrape it off the surface. So going all the way to the corners or the edges. Should get us a nice clean area. There's not a whole lot of glue left, so there's definitely more than a sufficient amount of glue remover. So that is that side. A bit more glue inside. In areas where you can see a bit more residue than others, we're going to focus on that. Give that just a tiny bit of elbow grease. Not a whole lot. And we're going to go up and down. You really just want to get it in every direction, starting from the center outwards. There we go. And by golly, do we get a nice clean surface. Now is when I take my blue shop towels and I really give it a good wiping down, making sure everything is nice and flat and free of the glue. You're going to feel with your hands any leftover globedy-gloob. And in fact, what I'm going to do is place PEI, or sorry, spring steel, its own sheet. So if anything we get off the edges stays off. By the time you're done, it should not be sticky anymore. If you feel stickiness, you've still got some glue on there. So I think I've got a tiny bit of residue, but nevertheless, we have taken 95%, if not more, of that glue off. By doing that, So why don't I zoom in and show y'all what we've got. That's pretty good if I say so myself. Now, you really should aim for perfection. And just because I want to make sure we do, one more spritz of the good old can here. Oops, cameras. The good old can here will really ensure you got it all going. But essentially, that is how you remove PEI from a spring steel sheets. Do this as many times as you feel as you need, because again, preparation is everything. You want to make sure this is as flat as possible, meaning no glue deposits when you put your new sheet on, because when it comes to 3D printing, that first layer needs consistency. So, hopefully this video has helped you, and if it has, consider leaving a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, you might want to consider subscribing. I actually do a lot of 3D printing videos based on maintenance and comparing components and such. So, hopefully I will see you all, or you'll see me, I guess, in the next video.